is everyone? How are we feeling? We feeling good? Thank you so much for coming to State of the Fight. It is the biggest State of the Fight that we've ever had at TAG, so thank you so much for your support. Today we will be hearing from a huge range of people, from TAG Leadership Council members to Platinum Status Achievers to active TAG community members, and all of our partners from all aspects of digital advertising. So thank you again for coming, and it's so lovely to see you all in person and virtually as well. So without further ado, please can I welcome Mike Zaneis.
All right, thank you. Just to scare Vanessa a little bit, coming in from the back, behind the back stage left. I am Mike Zaneis. I'm president and CEO of TAG. Been doing this for almost a decade. Hard for me to say that, but really exciting. I just want to follow up with Vanessa. A little bit of housekeeping here before we get going, because we're going to have a great day. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have some incredible discussions. If you have not met some of the TAG team, Vanessa Goff, Margaret Hackley, they are responsible for putting together this event. They do a wonderful job, so thank you to them. Little round of applause. I also want to thank the 4A's team for hosting us here. We've done this, I think, 3, maybe 4 years in a row where we have hosted it here. I want to thank Marla Kaplowitz, who the CEO of 4A's, who is on our board of directors, and Zoe, who is their office manager, who does not get enough credit for everything that she does to help us make this a successful event. So I am really excited today because this is a different type of event. A lot of you are here for advertising week. You're here for big conferences, big events, happy hours, lunches, dinners. We're going to do some of that. We're going to have a happy hour. I hope you can all stay tonight through that. Obviously, we'll have lunch. We'll feed you all. But our mission, if you're not familiar with TAG's State of the Fight, we are here to bring the community together and to talk about some of our successes. We do want to celebrate our successes because they are collective successes with all of you. But really what we're going to do is spend most of the day having discussions about real world industry problems. And we're going to chart paths forward so that TAG can understand where the biggest challenges are. We can put our resources there to start and find real solutions. And that's what we do every year. And so if I think back to a year ago when we were in this room and we were talking about the challenges and some of the things that we've done to address those in the past 12 months, I'm not going to steal anybody's thunder today because we're going to get really deep into some important issues. But when you think about the continuing research around fraud and invalid traffic that TAG puts out, and we have found consistently, as long as we set high standards and we adopt those standards across the industry, we can continue to bring fraud rates down to less than 1%. And we're going to talk a little bit more about fraud savings and what that really means. This year, we've expanded our brand safety certification program. You're going to hear later today about things like AI and human-created content, which we're really excited about, where TAG has charted some new ground that nobody else is working on that's really going to be exciting for publishers and for marketers. We've released tools in that area, things like our keyword block list. The goal, we always set goals, right? How do we stop this trend of keyword blocking from really demonetizing the news and original content and journalism in particular? You're going to hear from folks about some of those projects as well as we continue to be bold for publishers. That's really important. Threat exchange. A lot of you are not involved in what we do. TAG is actually the industry's official information sharing and analysis organization. That's a government designation here in the US so that we have antitrust protection to be able to share intelligence about different threats that are facing the industry. This year we stood up our piracy threat exchange, which is going to help us demonetize ad-supported piracy even more effectively. And more recently, we are now in the opening phases of launching our enterprise threat exchange. And what that means is, how do we help corporations better harden their defenses? This is something that the digital advertising industry has never had. And we're really excited to continue to kind of blow out this work. And of course, all of the work that we do globally. And taking that from the US or in the UK, where Jules Kendrick runs our office there, and pushing those solutions out is what TAG is all about. We are here to effectuate change. This is not a dog and pony show today. We're not going to sit here and pat ourselves on the back. Instead, we're going to spend most of today charting a new path forward. We're going to talk about the importance of transparency. We are going to talk about Rachel Neiswander-Thomas is going to walk us through the importance or the challenge of disinformation. If you watched the news this morning like I did, you see that we have these horrific hurricanes coming through our country, and disinformation about the federal response to that is promulgating through social channels. It is an incredible problem. And while we're thinking about that, we maybe just spend 1 second wishing all the best thoughts and prayers to folks. We're still cleaning up, especially in western North Carolina from Hurricane Helene. They haven't even cleaned up in Tampa from that. And now later tonight, we're going to see Hurricane Milton go through Tampa, Florida. We have staff that have traveled from Florida today. Lisa Gansky, who is our newest member of TAG. But we also have really close partners that are based in Tampa. And so they have gone inland and northward to try to be safe. And they said, Mike, Vanessa, we're going to try to be working for you. We know state of the fight is really important. We're going to try to be doing video editing for you and doing these things. And we just said, don't worry about it. This is not that kind of event. We're not live streaming this to the world. We don't have sponsors that we have to keep happy because they need 8 social media posts by 12 o'clock tomorrow. So we care about people. We care about the people that make up our industry. We care about you all because you make up our community. So we're going to keep working on that. You're going to hear from Todd Miller, our VP of Policy and Compliance. Again, being bold for publishers, because we recognize the challenge there. Publishers are under tremendous stress. And what are the programs and incentives and tools that we can create to make it easier to spend money with publishers? That's always our goal. And again, massive new program around AI and identifying human-created content. Jules is going to finish us off with a great session today on kind of new channels and new challenges. We do this pretty much every year because there's always a new channel. There's always a new type of media, right? 3 years ago, it was all about, hey, how do we get ahead of fraud in CTV? You can see from our fraud research now that I think for the first time ever, as an industry, we got ahead of the invalid traffic ad fraud challenge in a new space. And we see the CTV rates are really low, and that's fantastically gratifying. So again, we're going to go through this today. We have a full agenda. I hope you can stay. We're going to be interactive, hopefully, if you all are willing. There are some subjects you're not going to want to talk about, and that's okay. But there's a whole bunch of issues we know if we come together, we can work on them and be successful. So let's get into it. And Vanessa, do we have the slides, the pointer? We're not doing any slides this morning? Awesome. That's news to me. Okay, listen. Let's talk about the future of self-regulation. Who here in this room has ever worked on a $10 billion project? $10 billion, big project. Anybody? No? Jules, okay, you don't count because you're a TAG person. For those folks virtually, nobody raised their hand in the room. You're all wrong. You're all wrong. And do you know why you're wrong? Because as part of the tag community, you have worked on several $10 billion projects over the years. And we're going to continue to solve that kind of issue. So let me just use one example. Made for advertising. We've all heard that, right? Made for advertising, you can call it made for arbitrage, whatever you want to call the name of it. But the reality is, when we partnered with the Association of National Advertisers and Tag TrustNet, our transparency utility, and we collected log-level data, we reconciled that for dozens and dozens of advertisers. One of the key takeaways from that report that came out in the final report that came out in December of 2023 was that 15% of all programmatic ad spend was going to MFA sites. Vast majority of us do not value MFA sites. We're going to hear from Chris Kane, from Jounce Media, who coined the term "made for advertising." I hope that that's not I hope that's a positive moniker for him and not the red badge. But the reality is that represents more than $10 billion in potentially wasted ad spend. And so we saw that as a challenge, and we needed to educate the industry. So what we did is we began to put out the data, began to run seminars to educate about MFAs. The ANA did this. Let's be honest, everybody did that because it was one of the biggest issues in 2023 and continues to be in 2024. And what we found when we put out a new programmatic transparency benchmark report at Cannes earlier this year was that MFA spending had gone from 15% of programmatic down to 4%. And if you apply that to the $88 billion programmatic space, that is nearly a $10 billion shift in ad revenue, in ad spend. That happened because of all of you. Because you come together and work with TAG. You give us your thought leadership. You give us your time. You give us your resources. And you all are way more powerful than you think you are as individuals. And when we bring together a community of powerful individuals, we can change this industry. It's incredible. So I want you to think about what you're doing. And as you're doing your day jobs, and somebody says, boy, you really go to a lot of TAG working group meetings. Or, I could have had you at that meeting during ad week in New York, but instead you went to TAG's State of the Fight. You can tell them why. Because you're solving massive challenges in the industry. All right. So you've all worked on a $10 billion issue. I'm going to let you know that you were doubly wrong. You all have worked on another $10 billion issue called advertising fraud. That was the reason that TAG was created 10 years ago, was to bring the industry together, buyers and sellers, everybody, the 4As, the ANA, the IAB, to come together to solve ad fraud. And in doing so, we knew that we needed buyers to take action. The money always talks. But we needed really robust solutions. So this morning, TAG issued a first of its kind fraud savings report. We joined with the ANA 4As and IAB. We used the data that TAG has collected over the last 8 years of doing fraud benchmark reports. And what we found, again, extrapolating across the entire digital advertising ecosystem, we find that fraud rates are about 1%. But if you look at what the expected fraud rate would be, but for all of your efforts, but for the IAB Tech Labs putting out of technical standards and protocol, ads.txt, buyers.json, sellers.json, appads.txt, most of which we incorporate into our TAG certification programs. But for all of those efforts, we would have expected $16 billion in nearly lost revenue to ad fraud. But instead, what we actually have is just under $1 billion a year in 2023 in the U.S. lost to ad fraud. That's not perfect. It's not good enough. But it's a 92% reduction in what we would have expected. It is more than a $10 billion savings to marketers. And what that does is it creates trust and it creates transparency, and it allows the industry to thrive. It allows us to move on to the next big issue. And that's what we're really going to do here today. So all of this is about self-regulation. TAG is a nonprofit organization. We are out here to benefit the industry at large. We are a self-regulatory certification program. The number one issue I've had people ask me about this year is self-regulation and the future of self-regulation. Why? Who's heard of GARM? It's okay, you're not on camera. You all have. Everyone's heard of GARM coming out of the WFA, World Federation of Advertisers, and the work they did around brand safety, particularly around platform brand safety. Well, after a congressional investigation, after a lawsuit from Elon Musk and X, GARM was recently shuttered. What next? What does that mean for us as a self-regulatory body at TAG? My answer is we're moving full speed ahead. Self-regulation is not a four-letter word. Collaboration does not equal antitrust. We have been doing this for 10 years at TAG successfully. We have been resolving billion and $10 billion problems for a decade. We're not going to stop. Self-regulation is more vital today than it ever has been. If you do it right, if you understand the laws, if you're transparent and public and inclusive and open, self-regulation can be the most impactful work in an industry. And so we plan to continue our work. We plan to extend this work. We're not shying away because we can't. Because if we didn't take on the MFA issue, we'd be losing $10 billion a year. If we didn't take on advertising fraud, we would be losing $10 billion a year. And that can't happen. We are here to support the industry. You all are in a safe place at TAG. We will continue our work together. I would encourage everyone to please lean in, continue to give us your support, your time, your energy, your thought leadership, because we can do this the right way, and we plan to do that. So with that, we're going to go on to our first panel, transparency, and we're going to find our next $10 billion problem to address.